We're going to go down and move the animals this morning. They're really close here to the house, our unfinished house. There they are. So, if you hear some dogs barking and some other crazy stuff, you'll know why. We're right close up to the camping area. Let's see here. How's everybody doing? See, the fencer's off. That's something else we got to work on. Anyway, good morning. And what we're going to be chatting about just a little bit. I won't get too long-winded on this. As you can see, this is probably a very different method of grazing to what a lot of folks out there are used to seeing. So notice how I would say tight and close they are together. Oh, wow, scary. All right. So what we work on here, what you're seeing behind you, is high stock density. Okay. Why are we trying to utilize high stocking densities? Well, it makes the animals less selective when they graze. So, flip around here. If you look behind me, it might get washed out from the sun. You can see our pastures, when we're done grazing them, they're very low. We try and take them down as low as we can. Now, they're being a little bit selective right now. And the reason is we're working on their body condition. So, as the protein and energy in the plant drops, you'll have to let them be a little more selective if you don't have really well adapted genetics, because if they don't flesh easily and don't have high feed conversion or high feed conversion efficiency, you're going to have to let them be a little more selective. So it's very breed specific. Inside every breed, there's good cattle and there's bad cattle, right? I'm not a totalist when it comes to, oh, you have to run this breed of cow or that breed because the rest suck. That's not true. There's good cattle in every breed, doesn't matter, just like there's good horses in every breed. So what we have here is predominantly South Pole cattle. They do well. They're a great animal. They flesh easy. They have heat adaptability, all these great things. Are they the best cow out there for this? Probably not, no. But they do great. They do good. I've been happy with them. So back to high stocking densities. So what we're doing here is we are implementing the teachings of the Total Grazing Program, which is by Jim Elizondo. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It has changed everything for us here at the ranch as far as grazing goes. Oh my gosh, we have so much grass now. Our pastures are improving. Our animal performance is better because we have more forage. That's something we can get into a whole lot later. There's so much, guys. This whole system is like drinking from a fire hose when you start it. It's a lot to digest, and it's very controversial compared to every other grazing method out there. So what we try and do is we take as much of the forage, available forage, as possible. We're going to take every bit as much as we can without the animals losing body condition, which allows us to move through our grazing rotation way slower, right? So let's say that we have on the high end of the spectrum, let's say we're achieving 90% utilization, meaning the cattle and horses, you can see we have horses in here too, are eating 90% of the available forage, okay? Now, let's compare that to the other grazing systems that are very popular. That'll be the take half, leave half crowd, right? Where you're gonna graze half, trample half, whatever. You're gonna touch half. At least you're gonna probably take 50% of your forage if you can. Leave the rest of it behind. Okay. Then you have the third group, which, mind you, these are all just suggestions. There's no such thing as grazing a third, trampling a third, and leaving a third intact. It doesn't work. They're not lawnmowers. They are selective grazers by nature. There's no way to engineer that out of your animals. Okay. They will selectively graze given the opportunity. So if you take a third, you leave a third, and you trample a third, well, you're only harvesting 33% of your available forage. If you're only harvesting a third of your available forage, how long do you think that they would be able to stay on any given paddock in comparison to something where you're taking 90%? Well, almost 3 times shorter duration if you're in the take a third group, which means you're going to be moving around your ranch and your grazing rotation almost 3 times faster. So what does that mean? Well, it means you get back to the beginning of your grazing rotation 3 times quicker. If you're doing that, you're going to have a lot less or shorter rest periods. So remember, and I say this is kind of my phrase, I like to harp on it. Rest only recounts as recovery if it's in favorable growing conditions. What does that mean? Proper time of year, adequate rainfall, soil conditions that are favorable to growing, right? So if those things don't align, it's not going to be recovery. It's going to be rest. And rest doesn't do you much unless the plant is actually growing. It doesn't actually improve your soil. So what we do is we take a lot of the forage. For a summary, we take as much of the forage as we can while keeping good condition on our animals. And I would say you would probably agree those animals are looking fat and happy. And so as it allows us to rest our land longer, it gives us more recovery. And when you have more recovery, you grow more forage. And as you grow more forage and you have larger, more mature plants that are really well recovered, well, they have exudates, okay? That's, fancy term. I know that's a big term for me, especially early in the morning. That's part of the liquid carbon pathway that the plant takes and sequesters through photosynthesis and dumps that into the ground, okay? A carbon exudate that goes into the soil, carbon base. That's how you build your humus. Your humus of your soil is your total, actual, real world fertility. All this other stuff by trampling it down on the surface and fertilizing, that'll set you back. Do not fertilize your land. Let me rephrase. Do not put synthetic nitrogen on your land. If you're haying, you're in a totally different category. I'm not talking to you. I don't know the answers to that. I'm no expert. I'm no scientist, but I do have the power of observation. So if you put synthetic fertilizer on your ground, you're going to impede it. It's not going to become healthy. So if you can concentrate on really mature plants, really deep root profile, that is how you're going to build your soil deeper. You know, the guys that do the third, and they rotate across their land really fast, well, the biggest problem with that is that you always come back to your plants, almost always, I shouldn't say always, you almost always come back to your plants before they're recovered. And so what you're doing is through management, you are managing intentional or unintentionally small, underdeveloped root systems. So it's so heavily focused on to trample lots of litter on top of the ground to protect your soil, to keep it from overheating. Because when the sun hits your soil, that group of people are like, oh, your soil temperatures are getting high, and you're killing all the life in your soil, and you're losing all the moisture in your soil. Well, that's kind of true, because they're so focused on that very, very shallow surface of the root sphere, right? So you have short roots living in a small area in the surface of the soil. So as that heats from the sun, loses moisture, bad things happen to those non-recovered plants. Now, what happens if you have roots that are up to 20 feet deep, like the native tall prairie grasses? That'd be like big blue stem, switchgrass, eastern gamma grass. These plants have the ability to pull moisture up from way, way below. If you manage in a way that you're constantly going around your ranch and really, really fast without rest periods, you're not going to have warm season grasses. You're not going to have the big warm season grasses. You're going to graze them right out. You're going to kill them. They take longer periods to recover. So then you end up with a cool season predominant stand of grass, almost all cool season. And then you'll hear guys talk about the summer slump. Well, what's the summer slump? Hey, Trin, is this thing off? We're going to move we're going to move the animals. They're being very patient and they haven't started screaming at me yet. The summer slump refers to, and you'll hear this in most graziers' vocabulary, is somewhere in the summer, obviously, where forage production is way down and endophyte is way up. What is endophyte? Well, it's a It's a highly toxic fungus, basically, for lack of a better explanation. It resides symbiotically in Kentucky 31 fescue. There might be other fescues that it lives in. It's good for the plant and it's bad for your animals. So endophyte gives the plant resistance to all sorts of stuff, nematodes and drought and pests, parasites. But it's really, really hard on your animals. It creates a toxin that is literally so toxic that it creates additional body heat in the animal. Their hooves can fall off. Their tails can slip, the switch on the end of their tail. It can fall right off. Their ears can fall off. And when I say fall off, what ends up happening is that it reduces circulation in their body. So their outer extremities, as far as feet go, you'll hear the term possibly called fescue foot. And fescue foot, it normally develops in their rear hind left foot. So it's terrible, terrible stuff, right? But guys love fescue because it's high in protein and it stockpiles for winter really well. So if you can manage your stand of grass to have actual biodiversity, not just cool season grasses or not just warm season grasses, what you will have is actually 3 growing seasons. You're going to have your spring cool seasons, right? Those are your C3 grasses. And then you're going to have your summer growing season, which will be your C4 grasses. And remember, folks, these are all successional, okay? Whether you believe in nature created this or God created it, that's not the subject here. These plants know when to come in and how to come in after each other. It's a system, it's a cycle. So don't plant monocrops. And then you have your cool season growing season again. So you basically have 3 seasons inside of one, what most people think, growing season. And if you manage for that, you will grow more grasses year round. So if you have your cool season grasses and only cool season grasses, what do you think is going to happen in the summer? Well, you're not going to grow any forage. And the forage that's there is going to be what, most likely, especially if you're in the fescue belt, it's going to be fescue. So you're going to give your animals less forage in the hottest time of the year that's toxic. And then these guys talk about summer slump. Well, hell yeah, we shouldn't call it summer slump. Maybe we should call it summer poisoning, because that's basically what you're doing. And see, we made all the mistakes. I screwed up bad. Man, I didn't know jack crap. I was doing all the stuff that all the experts, and I know I kind of say that with a little, well, we'll just move on. I don't know if it's disingenuous on their part or if they just don't actually know. But anyways, I was following it to the T, and I didn't know enough to know any different. So, well, we started having all these problems, and as soon as I started seeing that, I knew something wasn't right. So I started looking and digging and doing a lot of my own research, and just through, again, power observation, because I'm not a scientist. I'm not Ivy League educated. I'm just a dude. But I'm pretty observant. So I knew something was wrong. And so we started looking, and I started, it never made sense to me, some of the stuff they always said, but I'm a dummy, and these guys are expert farmers and ranchers, and, well, I'm stupid. So, if everybody's saying that's what you should do, then I guess I'm just going to do it. Well, no, we made a big mistake. We made lots of mistakes. And we're trying to learn from those. And we still make mistakes. We're no pros at this, we're just getting better, and we plan on getting better all the time. So now we have a herd that is happy, healthy. They're not heat stressed. We're managing our grasses better. And so I know this is a giant word salad, and I can sit here and just flap my neck all morning about this. But the reality is that you have to untrain the way you think if you're a grazier, if you've ever ranched or farmed. And you have to unlearn all that stuff, and then, man, I'm telling you, it's tough, it's hard. But once you see the benefits, you'll never go back to the AMP grazing, the MIG grazing. And what I'm talking about here is the Total Grazing Program. Now, it's based on the teachings of Excuse me. Oh, sorry. I thought a dog was fighting. Johann Zeitzman. Okay, he's an African rancher. He's probably one of the foremost experts, if not the foremost expert in the world on land management and cattle husbandry, along with Jim Elizondo. Him and Jim Elizondo worked together apparently for years. And if I get some of this wrong, I apologize. It's just the best of my knowledge. I don't know all the gritty details. I just know that Jim and Johann come from the same camp. Let's put it that way. And Jim puts those teachings into a very palatable, easy to understand method. Classes, schooling, online. He does actual field schools. We went to one, Trinity and I, right here. Say hi, Trinity. Trinity, say hi to everybody. Say hi, everybody. We went down to Tallahassee, Florida, and took his course. And I'm telling you what, it's awesome. Now, I had read Johann's book before, and we had already been practicing some of this stuff. I just kind of gleaned what I could from the internet, I found every single video I could possibly watch or speaking engagement of these two men. And so I was just doing the best I could with what I knew or what I had heard. So we started doing it, and I immediately saw improvements. And I mean immediately. So I was like, this stuff works. I'm all in. Let's give it a go. I'm a big gambler anyway, so shake them up. Roll the dice. Well, yeah, there's no going back. This stuff works. Let's move these girls and boys. We are turned off, right? Oh, yeah, the fence is off. I always ask, because this thing's a 6-jewel fencer on a tiny bit of fence, and man, it hurts. I'll let out about 400 cuss words before I collect myself. So, oh, yeah. Well, you know what? Before we move them, before they get all rowdy and start pushing, let's just go say hi to the crew real quick. You guys want to see the cattle? So this is Bruno. This is our herd sire. I know the camera angle makes him look like he's some little midget. Now these are small framed cattle. All right. So, I'm 6'5", and he's, just above my belly button, right? They're not real tall. Oh, you got some duties on you, bro. He is a big attention hog. He always wants his morning pets. So that's Bruno. I don't know if any of you folks follow us, but this is old 970. She's mama to 971, also known as Sweetie, this little turd right here. So yes, our cattle, they have some of them have names. People say, don't name your cattle or name your cattle,
This is tagless.
Oh yeah, tagless. This is tagless, actually 283. We call her tagless, well, because hence no tag. But if you name them, don't name them. Their ear tag is their name, They all have a personality. They're incredibly intelligent animals. People say cows are dumb. Only dumb people say cows are dumb because they just don't know. Stop. See, this is what she does. She's a pest. She comes up and rubs. Come here. All right, we'll give her her morning scratches. Yeah. Yeah, so we have, we'll get back to the grazing stuff, but we have a very low stress approach to stockmanship. We just, you guys think you're getting moved now, huh? So low stress, and we create a lot of contact with our animals. I don't look at them as just a commodity. They're living creatures that have feelings too. We want them to have the best. Oh, I think I got doo-dooed. We want them to have the best life they can possibly have, even if that means they're going to still be food. We treat them with dignity and respect, and we care for their well-being as much as we absolutely can. I treat these cattle as good as my dogs. I treat them. Shoot, I might treat them better than my kids.
I second that.
Hey, I see. Yeah. They're beautiful, wonderful creatures, and horses too. We just treat them with respect and low stress. We don't stress them out. We don't ride horse. As you can see, we don't saddle up the horses to work the cattle. We don't need to. We're going to show you how easy this is. All right, Trin, let's move it. I've been flapping my neck. Let's let these people that have been sticking around actually see how this works. So this is called a cell, and you'll see a wire there. Sorry, it's hard for me to see, guys, and a wire there. This paddock or cell is, I think this is maybe 65 feet wide, okay? By about 250, 300 feet long. And all we do is we start them here. The water's back there, auto water. We're gonna put the mineral in there now. Again, we just moved them yesterday. I don't like putting the mineral in until the following day because we want them to graze off this side and not drag the mineral that has manure on it and foul their feed. And we're doing it together, two of us. It's so much easier. We're just walking forward a little bit. Right, that's plenty. Yeah, let me get past this chicory. It's gonna ground me out. And once you're hooked up, why don't you come down here? I can't operate this one-handed. I know, I'm pretty worthless. And that's it, guys. That's our cattle move. Now we move our animals, I like to say 4 times every day. Now why I say I like to say that? Well, every once in a while we'll only move them twice. If we're letting them be more selective, we'll move them less frequent with larger paddocks. So that really improves animal performance, meaning i.e. condition, right? So she's stomping down the grass so it doesn't ground out the charger. Come on with it. you didn't put your stake in, you dummy. Oh, and now she's tripping on the wire. What are you doing? I guess it's too early. She's trying to let the cattle out, I think. She's trying to knock the wire down so they can take off. You haven't eaten, so your brain just shut off, huh? That's funny.
My brain doesn't work in general, okay?
Oh, okay. You're gonna have to stomp that down right there. Okay, anyway. So that's it, guys. That's it. I mean, there you go. You just saw it. That's our move. That's our morning move. So I'll just do some quick math on this. Let's see. We're probably about 400,000 pound stock density right here. So that means 400,000 pounds per acre. So 400,000 pounds of cow per acre. So if you have 1,000 pound animal unit, meaning 1,000 pound cow, that means you would have 400 of them on 1 acre. Now I know that sounds mind blowing, but actually 400,000 pounds is kind of low for us. If you really want your utilization way up, meaning eating more forage, we typically get the best forage consumption somewhere around 800,000 pounds of stock density per acre, meaning this area we would have given them half as much. Now, does that mean that we give them an area that is so little that they're all just crammed in there? No, we give them just an area of feed that's that small. If they need to, they go right back out here. They just walk right back out. If the horses put pressure on them, you'll hear me use that term a lot, pressure. Well, animals, everything about animals is pressure. So it's just me walking toward an animal creates pressure. Well, cattle, they're highly sensitized to horses. Horses are up the food chain, let's just say it that way. So don't forget your water bottle. Trinity's leaving. Hey, say bye.
Bye, I'm going to work.
You're going to work? Are you going to go? You and Deanne working?
Yeah, at 10. We got horses.
Oh, okay. So she
At 4.
is under the tutelage of my older daughter, eldest daughter, Deanne, and they're farriers. So they go out and they shoe horses and trim feet. That's what they do. So, oh yeah, I will. I'll take care of it. So where were we? Oh yeah, stock density. So pressure. So if the horses pressure the cattle and say, get out of my way, that's my piece of grass, the cattle can just shoot out the back, right? No big deal. So again, the more frequent you move them and the smaller amount of forage you give them, to an extent, 4 times works about perfect because they have roughly 4 rumination cycles a day. They'll consume the most forage. But if you start losing animal performance, i.e. condition, then you got to take and give them bigger areas. You can still move them that much, but it's not really necessary. So it's better just to kind of give them a bigger paddock and just let them be a little pickier. Now, when they do that, you're going to leave more forage behind, right? So, okay. So that big word salad. Why, or what is the other benefit of high utilization? What's the other benefit of having them eat most all this grass? Well, what you're looking for is non-selective grazing. There's only truly 2 types of grazing, and then there's lots of subsets of each of those. There's selective grazing and there's non-selective grazing. That is it. So, selective grazing. What is selective grazing? Well, since cattle, horses, pretty much every animal in nature, right, is selective. They're not going to eat a rock when they have a apple next to it, or a dog is not going to eat a stick if he's got a steak, right? So they're going to select just like this. That's natural behavior. So people think just because it's green, a cow or a horse is just going to eat it. Well, that's not the case. They have an amazing ability to know what kind of energy is in the plant, the protein, all that. They have, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a scientist, and I don't think many people understand this, but they have an innate ability to put their nose next to something and immediately know if they need it, and they will eat it. Just like if you give them cafeteria style mineral, 20 different minerals and nutrients, they will select only the ones that they need. They won't eat the stuff that they don't. So they go into a paddock and they find their favorite, best food first, right? So consider it ice cream, cookies, cucumbers, and carrots. Well, what are your kids going to eat? Okay, they're going to go eat the sweet stuff, right? That's what they do too. So if you allow them that choice, that's all they're going to eat. Well, are you going to have really high animal performance? Yes. Are you going to have really fat animals that probably breed back easier? Absolutely. Are you going to be really have a very low productive system as far as pounds of beef produced per acre? Yes. So that's where non-selective grazing really takes the trophy. So when you take and force your animals to eat everything, well, they consume more of the available forage. So again, they rotate on the ranch through their grazing circuit slower, giving the rest of the grass more time to recover. You guys gonna eat that chicory? Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? That chicory is absolutely gorgeous. That's great forage. When it's that woody, not necessarily, but they still peck at it. But what's most important about this style of grazing is that the non-selectivity puts the equal amount of pressure on all of the forages, all of them. You're not just getting them to come in and eat their favorite stuff, the cookies and candy. They are eating everything, right? So they're getting their carrots and cucumbers. Now, that might not be a great example exactly, because in that situation, you'd be saying, well, cookies and candy are not good for you, and the cucumbers and carrots are healthy for you. Well, it's kind of not exactly apples to apples here. So, because if you're making them eat everything, you're definitely making them eat less available energy, less available protein. An animal can only take in so much forage every day, right? So it's really important as graziers to make sure we are watching what they're consuming, and we can tell if they have adequate nutrition by their manure score. A manure score literally is looking at their shit, looking at their poop, okay? So I'm gonna show you one that's not great. They're right there. If you can see that, it's kind of got the cinnamon roll look. So the reason for that is it didn't have as much protein as he should have. So if you see too many of those, you're going to start losing animal performance. What you should be looking for, or what you should be seeing for a perfectly balanced rumen, is a manure that's like a half, kind of melted Slurpee. It's gonna be, thin guacamole. Think of it like that. So that tells you that they have a good balance. And why that's so important is that's where they derive their nutrition, right? Well, how does a cow get its energy? How does it get its nutrition? It doesn't actually necessarily get it directly from the plant. It gets it through the bugs, the micro fauna in their gut, right? Their rumen is completely full of little single-celled organisms and bacterias, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on in there. And what you do is you feed them, and they in turn break it down, metabolize it, and make it available to the animal then to absorb and get the nutrients from. Again, I'm no scientist. That's how my little brain can think of it. Here we go. Here's a good manure. You're gonna see it's not stacked up. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. You can see them, they're runnier, okay? And see this manure distribution too? This is what's really important. I know I keep taking a bunch of side quests here. A little distracted. My ADD is, I got stupid dogs barking. My ADD is strong this morning, so bear with me. So we're just looking here. Look at all this manure. Well, look how it's cast just about everywhere, right? That's really important. We don't want all that going into some sacrifice lot or some paddock somewhere that's just all of it in one area. So they do a really good job of spreading that right into animal impact. Okay, back to finish with the manure. You need to be looking for fiber chunks in their poop. You go ahead and literally just take your foot, smear it, and get down there and look. There's a couple, but it's not bad. You should be looking for manure that has less than 1/4 inch long pieces of fiber in it. If they're longer than that, you need more protein. So it's real simple, guys. That, being able to identify their nutritional intake through the manure is super easy. Okay, back to the non-selectivity. So they go in, sorry, I know I'm all over the place. They go in and graze non-selectively, so that means they put pressure on every single plant. So every plant gets a fair chance at recovery. It's really unfair to your desirable species to let them go in, pick what they want, and I know you've seen these fields if you've ever been around a cattle field, paddock, pasture, and look out for it next time. Just remember this crazy dude on YouTube, and just remember what I say. Look out there and you're gonna see these clumps, these tufts of really big grasses, and then you're gonna see like short, like putting green in between them, and then you're gonna see some big weeds, and you're gonna see some brambles and some brush and blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, that is all caused from non-selective grazing. So why are those grasses big and tall, and then why are the ones next to it short? Well, because of selective grazing, the cattle go in, they take what they want, and then they take and they eat the best and reject the rest, right? And then you go, oh, well, they're done and they've grazed it. Let's move them. So then you move them. And what happens? Then you let that recover a little bit. When you bring them back, that stuff that they grazed to the dirt is going to be the highest energy and the most palatable. And that old rank stuff they didn't want to touch the first time, do you think they're going to want to eat it the next time they come in? Hell no. That stuff is terrible now. I mean, it's months even older. Why did that stand of grass start in the first place? Well, a lot of times it starts from a manure pile that's left behind or grass that's just a little too mature. And they go up there and they go, yeah, nah, I don't want that. Or they go up and go, ooh, fresh turd. Oof, I'm going to stay away from that. And they graze. It's like this. It's amazing. It repels them a couple of feet. They'll stay away from that manure pile if they're allowed to graze selectively. So they stay a couple feet away from it. That forage is allowed to then get very, very mature. And the next time they come back through, it's even more mature, less palatable, blah, blah, blah. Snowball effect, right? You can see where I'm going with this. So what you end up doing through management alone, through your grazing management, not the cattle, they're designed exactly to do what they do. through your or your neighbors or whatever has that brushy field, it's their management that's happening. It's not that they're not spraying the right crap on their field. It's not that they're not putting the right herbicide on their field or the right fertilizer. It's their grazing management is totally dicked up. That's where we were. I'm no expert on this. We screwed this all up. I'm no expert, but I'll tell you what, we're getting it figured out because we have the help of the Total Grazing Program. Jim Elizondo will hold your hand through this. He's held my hand. And I believe in this so much now. I mean, I'll put my reputation on it. I'll put my reputation on it. I'm going to say this stuff works, and it works so well that I'm trying to help him spread the word. There in the description of this video, it is an affiliate link. I'm going to be very clear. I'm not going to hide the truth or, oh yeah, I'm just check out this link. No, he would not take no for an answer. So if I was going to take and help him spread the word of his program, he insisted that we become an affiliate. Whatever. I just wanted to do it for free, but that's cool. Whatever. Anything to help spread the word of this is important to me because this is allowing us and many, many more like us, and will continue to if people can start adopting it. It will give them the ability to stop succumbing to massive corporations and globally produced meat. Why do I say that? Well, because this is profitable, guys. Our inputs are almost nothing. We give them some mineral and we give them some water. God gives them some sun, and the rest is done over there and the magic happens. That's it. We don't have a bunch of costly inputs. We don't have a bunch of feed. This year, unless we get snow or ice, and this is, mind you, this is our first year fully implementing the Total Grazing Total Grazing Program. And we have so much grass this year that we will not be feeding one bale of hay unless we get into snow or ice. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about productivity. Well, okay. How productive, I can't even talk, were we last year and the year before? No, so I'm going to get some people over time that are going to hate them. Oh, well, that's because you got all this rain this year. Rain is really important. Yeah, it's probably the number one most important nutrient to your plant, besides sunlight. So, yes, we have to assume that we need rain. So, I'm not going to compare apples and oranges here, okay? I'm going to compare apples to apples. So, the 3 last years, that's going to include, so 2024, 2023, and 2022. So 2022 was our first season. We moved to Missouri that winter, well, actually early spring, bought the ranch in winter. And got down here around, I think it was March. And that spring, oh my God, I thought we moved to the rainforest. It rained and it rained and it rained. And man, it was so rainy. I was like, geez, well, how come these people can't grow more grass? This is so easy. Look at all this rain we get. Well, guess what? June 1st, turned the spigot off, man. I mean, drought. A lot of people around here are saying it's the worst that they've seen since like 1983. Bad, right? We went like 64 consecutive days right in the middle of summer without a single raindrop. Fast forward then to just last year, okay? Almost the exact same thing. I think it might have been like 48 days or something with no rain. And when we got rains on both sides of that 48 days, it wasn't much to talk about. So, and it happened again, and I mean the first week of June. So all I'm going to be able to do is compare our last 3 springs because that's fair. So 22, 23, and 24. 24, this year, we actually had almost no rain in March, which around here, the nickname or the joke is, Mud March. Well, we didn't get mud because we didn't have rain. So all that being said, in that same period of time, in the spring green up, we on average produced this spring between 3 and 5 times more forage per acre than prior years. So I don't need to say anything else. I mean, that's just the way it was. We were only harvesting, and I think I'm actually being really, really generous talking about 22 and 23. We were harvesting between 30 and 50 cow days per acre. Now, if you folks know how to calculate cow days, let's say 1,000-pound animal, okay, is going to consume, a lactating cow is going to consume anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5% of her total body weight in dry matter forage a day. So we just use a very round number of 3%. And I use that across the herd. Now we got a couple horses that are on maintenance. Actually, just one. The other ones are growing, so they're going to be consuming more. So we're going to say 3% of body weight. So that's 30 pounds per 1,000-pound animal unit. So you can calculate your dry matter, right? So it's really easy for me to figure out how much actual forage I have if I, if I'm good at estimating consumed forage, what we harvested. So let's say this is probably only about a 60%, 70% harvest. And I know how much they eat per day, so you can figure out your total rations that you're harvesting, yada, yada, yada. So that's how we calculate it, guys, okay? And then you can also use that formula then to calibrate your eye to your grazing stick, or your grazing stick to your herd, okay? A grazing stick's just a little piece of wood. You can get it from the NRCS, you can get it from your local extension. It's a yardstick, basically. You can measure the height of your forage, and it gives you these simple formulas of per acre inch of forage. You can calculate, on the low end between 150 pounds per acre inch of forage to 450 pounds, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's how we end up calculating forage. Now, the only true way to get it, plus or minus 1% would be to like actually hay your ground and then bale it and weigh it and then deduct your moisture content from that, blah, 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 right? This is close enough. I mean, we're probably plus or minus 10% at all times, maybe even closer. So let's go walk over here. I'll show you guys cattle while I flap my neck. So yeah, between 3 to 5 times more forage. On top of the hill, early this spring, when we finally got up there, we were harvesting like 120 to 150 cow days in the same area that maybe we were harvesting 30 the prior year. I'm telling you guys, this stuff just works. So, I don't know if anybody here watching does any sort of grazing or runs cattle or not. That's cool if you don't. And if you're just here because you like, listening to insane people talk about cows and poop, thanks. So, but that's where we're at. We did all the other stuff. We did the AMP, we did the MIG, we tried the holistic, whatever. They're all the same. Let's be honest. It's all the same. It's all selective grazing. And selective grazing is for the birds. So, oh yeah, I might want to touch on this. You see that field behind me? The cattle didn't graze it like that. I mowed that. There was some lower quality forage in there. When I say low quality, it was overly mature. It was pretty ripe. You know what, guys? Sorry, I have not been looking at the comments. I apologize. I'm going to stick my big ugly face next to this and see if I can get a couple of comments. Oh, yes. Non-constructive feedback for sure. Oh, yeah. Oh, I have people hate on it all the time. But that's okay. That's just because they don't know. They don't know their ass from their elbow. If they actually practiced or tried this, they would see the fruits of it and be like, wow, okay, yeah, you don't have to waste all that forage and destroy your land to try and feed your cows selectively. And land, we operate 192 acres. Got 192, and there's about 130, give or take, of, let's call it pasture. Now, the 63 acres on the other side is rough, and I mean like, woo, it's nasty. It looks like CRP. I've already, with my front bush hog, it handles trees to about 4 inches. I've mulched thousands. I actually did like just a rough calculation of how many I did per hour and how many hours involved and blah, blah, blah. And I figured somewhere around 4,000 trees that I had to mow off that. And I still have probably 1,000 to go. So we're not even talking about that over there. We're only focusing on this side right now this year. That side is resting. That thing was literally run into the dirt, bad. It was continuously grazed for many, many years. And when you continuously graze, you're selective grazing, and it's nuked. So, but we'll get it there. through the rest. It's last year I got an opportunity to rest. It was before we purchased. Actually, my kids did. My oldest son and daughter-in-law. The folks that had it, they didn't have any cattle on it that year, so at least it got to rest that first year. And then this year, all we did was put the horses through it really early, a quick rotation, let them pick at it a little bit when we were letting this place recover. And we haven't been there since. So again, it's just getting to rest. And boy, I'll tell you what, the warm season grasses are coming in. We got big blue and little blue, a little bit of switchgrass. I've seen some yellow Indian grass. All super exciting, right? When you see that stuff showing up, that's really good. And so many people focus on putting lime down and all that, and that's good. Don't get me wrong. But especially if you can't afford that, if you manage specifically for your tall prairie warm season grasses, guess what, guys? They don't need really good soil. They can live in more acidic, more nutrient deplete soils. So they're just hardier. They're tougher when it comes to that. They're not hardier when it comes to grazing pressure. So they got to have much longer rest periods. What ends up happening, if all you're ever doing is looking at your paddock and going, oh, my fescue's ready to graze. Oh, my fescue's ready to graze. Well, you're going to be grazing your fescue, and you're going to be managing for fescue and not for other grasses. So you kind of need to let your fescue get overripe to allow your warm seasons to establish. If all you ever do is focus on cool season grasses and their vegetative state, dude, you're not going to have any warm season grasses. You're going to graze them right out. They require more time and more rest. So, ooh, that's a nice horsefly, huh, girl? Ooh. Yeah, we're going to be building a horsefly trap. I saw a guy that made one here, I don't know, years ago, and I can't remember who he was or where it was, but we're gonna build one because, boy, I'll tell you what, horseflies are, especially at night, man, those things are like, some of them are that big. They're an inch and a half long. They're nasty. So, yeah, I got high hopes for that. But anyway, I have run my neck a really, really long time. So what I'm going to do here, and these are fairly popular. Let's take the walk. Let's just do that. So the biggest criticism, and people get angry about this stuff, man. It's nuts. They'll name call you stupid and get it. It's just stupid. Yeah, there's one guy in particular. He's really well known. I think it really, some of these guys, it really threatens what they've been teaching for so long and proves that what they've been teaching, maybe at the time it's just the best of their knowledge, and that's fine, no big deal. But isn't it about adaptation? Aren't we supposed to have the humility to go, oh, I was wrong? I mean, the first couple of years I was grazing, I was like, holy crap, man, I screwed up bad. I lost a tail on my steer, poor grazing management. He slipped a tail from endophyte toxicity. And these guys get so butthurt. They are worked up, almost foaming at the mouth, with a little rat face. They get all angry and oh my gosh. It's like, dude, it's just grass. It's okay. Calm down. You're going to stroke out. What's important is that people learn to manage their land to make it as highly profitable and productive as they can. Because once they can do that, well, you're going to get more ranchers. You're going to get more farmers. Who the hell wants to become a farmer or a rancher when all they ever did was watch their parents or their grandparents, damn near starve? They were always broke. They were always taking loans out. They were always selling chunks of the land off to pay the mortgages on the others. That don't work, guys. This does. This is very, very low input, and you can produce more pounds of beef per acre. End of story. There's just no argument. And anybody that says otherwise is just, well, for all you little kids out there, plug your ears. They're full of shit. They've, wrote the books, and now they can't take and go back on it, I guess. I don't know. I guess I would just be like, hey, you know what? We're starting to implement this. We're going to try this because the science is actually better on this. So here we go. There's the walk back in time. So we're just walking this direction. We haven't had rain in, 3 weeks. So we're getting pretty dry. And this is the stuff that everybody gets all crazy about. Oh, well, what happens if you hit a drought? What happens if you hit a drought? You're not going to have any grass. Oh! Well, that's not true. Because right now, because of how we've been managing, If we don't get one more drop of rain this year, it won't make any difference because we have so much standing forage ahead of us. Okay, remember my forage survey? No, I actually didn't even tell you this. So I did a forage survey. Now it's been over a month. I need to go do another one, see where we're at, because every day you grow more weight, more blade. A little over a month ago, I did a forage survey. My little herd, and it's a micro herd. You know, I don't claim to be some huge cattleman. We're building a herd. You know, we hope to be knocking on the door of 1-to-1 carrying capacity. So that would put us in the neighborhood of between 100 to 130 units someday. It'll take a few years to get there. Not gonna lie. Did my forage survey. My herd takes about 9,500 cow days of forage per year. Okay, 9,500 cow days. At that time, over a month ago, when we had not near as much growth and as much stockpiled, we had roughly, give or take, 14,000 cow days. Okay, well, that's easy math. That's about a year and a half of grass in front of us. So, do you think that I am losing sleep like I used to at night? Do you think I'm stressing out? What am I gonna do about hay this year? How much hay am I gonna have to buy? That is one of the most stressful things for a rancher or a farmer that runs livestock is your winter feed. What a nightmare, man. It's expensive and it stresses you out. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because, well, if you buy too much hay, then you wasted money. If you don't buy enough hay, then you're stressing out. And then you're gonna waste money because you're gonna have to buy hay again during peak consumption and peak price. So, you know, it's just a lose-lose. It's pretty rare that you're like, you know, buy 1,000 bales of hay and have 10 left over. It just doesn't work that way. You run short or you have too much and it costs you money. So this system allows your land to rest so long that you have so much standing hay, okay? The terms of the graziers, they call it stockpile. You have so much standing hay or stockpile ahead of you at all times. If you do run into a drought, oh well, you pull off of the green pastures, the recovering pastures, the palatable, the higher energy pastures, and you just shoot them over to wherever your stockpile is, your standing hay, and put them on that until your paddocks recover. It's that simple, guys. It's not rocket science. But they'll really harp on, you know, not trampling enough down, not feeding the worms and the stuff on the top 3 inches of the soil. And the reason I say the top 3 inches, because you ever seen core samples from all these guys? I have. I've seen them. Not all, I shouldn't say all. I've seen plenty of guys that are doing the regenerative ranching, which I'm totally in on. This is a form of it because your land is regenerating or degenerating. It never sits in one place. And they only ever express about, maybe that much of organic matter in the top of their core. It's because everything that's happening in their soil is on the surface. There's nothing going down deep because they're not allowing the plants to get mature enough. So let's look in here. You can see how you can kind of see through this. Not kind of, you can see through it. But look at all the seedlings coming in. There's zillions of them. I mean, unbelievable. See, this pasture has always had a really terribly wide interplant spacing, meaning the space between each plant was wide, it had a large gap. Well, it doesn't matter how tall your grass grows, really. It means nothing because typically, when your grass gets really tall, it's just stem, and that's nothing, right? And once you get all that stem on there anyway, the nutrition drops quite a bit, your protein falls out. So what you're looking for higher yield, you're looking to tighten up your interplant spacing. That, you know, the dude that has the most growth points per square inch or per square yard, per square foot, meter, mile, acre, doesn't matter, wins in the forage production competition. Well, that's what this system allows you to do because you're taking off enough of the forage, you're not matting it all down, suppressing everything else that's trying to grow or trying to germinate. So this is the thing. So these are the things. I'm a big gardener. We used to garden big gardens in Alaska, in Idaho, you know, orchards and gardens and all that. And the stuff that didn't make sense to me, and I was always kind of at odds with, was trampling all that crap on the surface, pushing down that much grass on the surface. And you'll hear them say, well, you got to have a you know, you got to have that solar panel. Well, okay. So you're going to take your solar panels that are designed to do this, right? They're going to stand up. And that's your solar panel. And you got hundreds of thousands or hundreds of millions of them. Let's talk about like a actual solar farm, right? Where they got all their solar panels. How beneficial is it to take all their solar panels and pile them up and smash them down? How effective is that? Is that really how you're going to collect more sunlight to grow more blades of grass? Are you going to grow more blades of grass by taking your available blades of grass and smashing them down in this giant evil mat that suffocates everything underneath it? No, I don't think so. I think actually how you grow blades of grass is the way it was designed, and that's by harvesting sunlight, converting it into starches, taking said starches, and shooting them down into the roots and the crowns of the plant. How do you think a plant come spring can grow after the whole top of the plant's been dead or harvested? How does it do that? How does it magically come back without its fabled solar panel? Well, it does it from its energy reserves. So just because it's coming out of dormancy, the plant physiologically or biomechanically doesn't change. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are changes, but it still operates in a very similar manner. So it needs the solar panel. They love calling it solar panel. It drives me nuts. They need the solar panel in their excuse for trampling it all down and leaving it intact so they can grow more blades of grass. Just think about that for a bit. Okay, so where I was going with that whole gardening statement, well, I think anybody that has gardened or gardens frequently and owns a lawnmower and has a lawn has probably at one time or another used grass clippings. And what do we use them for? What do people who organically garden use grass clippings for? Or just people in general, not even organic. Well, they use them to suppress growth. What is mulch? What is mulch? Why do you mulch? When you go to Home Depot and you see bags of stone mulch, it is to suppress growth. It is to keep the ground covered and not let other things grow. Well, what do you think you're doing with all your grass when you're trampling it down? Do you think you're going to take and allow your seedlings, your seeds to get enough sun and heat to germinate? Probably not. Is that going to help or hinder your warm season grasses that are trying to push up and express themselves in the early summer, late spring? Well, in my experience, it definitely suppresses them. So anyway, that's my little story. That's my little rant. That's how this stuff works, at least to my observation. Again, I'm not a scientist. Um, I just, I have, I like to pat myself on the back about one thing. I consider myself to be a highly observant person. I have the power of observation. We all do, right? Some people are more observant than others. I think I have 7 of the 9 major tisms. So I'm a little on the spectrum here. So things really stand out to me. I can walk into a room and I can see a wall that's out of plumb by a 1/4 inch. I swear, I don't know, I'm Rain Man here. So I have very good observation skills. And so I hyper obsess over this stuff. And I'm telling you guys, without scientific data behind me on my own land, right? Because I didn't have somebody come out and record it. You guess you'll have to take my word for it that my observations tell me that this works way, way better because it's working way, way better. It's pretty simple. So yeah, this is, here we are. Like I said, man, ADD. I literally saw a squirrel trail going over to a tree over there and I almost talked about it and went, wait, no, stay on subject, stay on. So this is what we came off of, right? And we haven't, like I said, we haven't had rain in 3 weeks. I mean, we're getting closer to a month almost now. Yeah. So we're in drought. Stuff's dry. The ground is very dry. It's very hard underfoot. Does it look like there's something to eat back there? Yeah, there is. So, anyway, that's it. I don't know if anybody's got any questions. Let's see. No, you guys are pretty quiet. You're just listening to a crazy man talk. That's all right. Don't mind. I can just shut up here for a minute and we can just walk back real quiet and let you look. It's beautiful scenery. Anybody want to see the cattle? Anything else you guys want? You just want to hear an insane person keep running their neck? What do you guys need? Let me know. Tell you something, if you're there or not. Tell me if you want me to shut up and just film. I can do that too, because it's a gorgeous morning. It's gorgeous. Look at that walnut. It's a beautiful tree. It's quite the squirrel mecca. There's like I said earlier, kind of neat. You can see all the trails going from every tree to every tree throughout the pasture. It's their little network. It's pretty funny. Oh, Trinity's up there moving the horses. So we got a couple horses that are not kept in the herd. They they get a little bit too much of that herd mentality, and so they become harder to work. And you start, the more horses you put together, again that herd mentality takes over. So if you're training young horses, don't keep them in a mob. It makes them, you want them to be more dependent on you, right? That's your little equine tip of the day. Oh, anybody still watching? All right, I can't see it. Oh yeah, we got 59 of you. So there's 59 crazy people out there. I appreciate you guys. That's all right. So yeah, that's the spread. That's the Tick Creek Ranch spread there. You can see the house that we've been working on for, well, haven't been working on it for a long, long time. We're building it cash. So with this amazing economical situation that everybody's in, everything went about half as far. So we kind of ran out of steam on it. But we've also diverted a lot of attention to other things around here. There's no point in owning a ranch or a farm that's not productive, right? So that just keeps the rain off your head. So we're still RVing it, the wife and I. My folks, they got their house up there, and they've been just plugging away. My dad and the boys have done the most. I've only helped over there a little bit. I'm always busy with social media and or just everything else around the ranch. Animals, cattle, mowing, brush, getting attacked. There we go here. You joined late. Oh, more videos on the subject. Well, honestly, we're going to be having a lot more videos on the subject. And the reason I've kind of been quiet on this thus far is I'm not necessarily afraid to stick my foot in my mouth. I do it a lot. Ask my wife. But if I'm going to be coming to the public, and trying to spread and disseminate any kind of information that could be beneficial, I want to know what the hell I'm talking about, and not just start blah blah blah. I did this for 4 days this way, right? I'm even reluctant at this point because I haven't even done it for a full season to continue talking about the Total Grazing Program. But I've seen its fruits. I follow other people. There are other content creators out there that have been doing this longer than us. I talk to them. We communicate. I watch their videos. We've been practicing it. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've spent time on the Olivia Ranch in in Florida. That's where Jim had his school, out of Tallahassee. Boy, I'm sweating like a fiend. And so, I can see it, and there's now enough proof. I'm not just an isolated incident here. My other daughter just showed up. Their dogs are barking. I don't know if you heard this or not. My daughters, they're farriers. My 17-year-old is training underneath my what is she now? 23-year-old. And so that's what they do. They go out and shoot horses. Anyway, yeah, I felt like I needed to know more about what I was talking about. I needed to experience more. And there's definitely things, because this program is very, very adaptable to all climates and regions, continents. I mean, the one continent probably wouldn't work on is Antarctica. Just saying. Gonna throw that out there. My dogs are retarded, if you can hear that. Oh, jeez. Anyway, so yeah, I've been really holding the brakes, and I know this is actually the first time I'm really starting to talk about the total grazing system. I'm doing it live. I want you guys to see that this is uncut, unedited. I'm still wrapping my head around it. Like I said earlier in the broadcast, it's like drinking from a fire hose. It really is. If you've never practiced this before, because it's so contrary to pretty much everything everybody's been at least taught or told in the regenerative grazing world, ranching world. We've all been told to trample most of your grass down and leave it, because for every blade of grass you leave, you'll grow two the next year. It's just, yeah, it's not true. It's okay. They want to do that, that's fine, and they should continue doing that. But if there's a better way of doing something, I think it's kind of disingenuous to go out and keep pontificating to the public that your way is the best way. And maybe they truly believe that. I don't know. It's just, there's always a better way to skin a cat, right? There really is. That's how we improve as a society, right? That's how we improve. Let's put it this way. Okay, who are let's say, who's the grandfather of aviation? I think most people would say the Wright brothers. Okay, doesn't mean what they did was bad, because now we have stuff that can fly supersonic with pressurized cabs and fly all the way around the world without refueling. Like, how does that somehow, does that make them bad guys? Does that make them stupid? No, they were pioneering it. So that's how it works, right? You pioneer, you do your best with what you got at the time, with the available knowledge and technology. That's what you do, and you do the best you can. But when new stuff comes along, you can't sit here. If you were the Wright brothers and you were immortal and you lived for 100 years, you couldn't sit there and go, oh, that radial engine, P-51, that's for the birds. That stuff will never work. What you need is this kite. See this kite that we sit in here, and it only raises to about 20-foot elevation. That's what you need. Screw that P-51 Mustang. It's kind of what's happening. I don't know if drank their own Kool-Aid too long, or they're just ashamed to admit that there's a better way. I don't know, guys. Whatever. I've seen some of them. They're starting to slightly modify their grazing techniques a little bit, kind of like adopting a little bit of this, Johann Zeitzman, Jim Elizondo style grazing. And I wonder if they're going to try and now pawn it off as their own. It's going to be interesting to see, like, well, I just discovered how to do this on my own. No, Jim's been out there, Johann, much longer, but Jim's been really hammering on this for 10 years, and he's been hitting a lot of roadblocks, a lot of people stonewalling him, telling him I was wrong and it won't work and all this stuff. But the reality is, I think proof is in the pudding, and I might be wrong. I could still totally be wet behind the ears. There could be selective grazers out there that are achieving a 1-to-1 carrying capacity 365 days a year with no additional inputs other than possible protein supplementation and or mineral. They might be out there. It's possible. And if they are out there and you know them or you are one, please comment down below or give me their information so I can contact them. Because if that's the case, I need to go visit them. I need to learn how they're doing it. Because, I mean, if you can get a 1-to-1 carrying capacity on selective grazing, then I'm all for it, because you'll probably have fatter animals, right? You'll get better animal performance if you can selectively graze them at a 1-to-1. But I haven't seen it. The guys that are at the top of their game, at least from what I've seen, this is my observation. I keep prefacing that because there's nothing, I'm not going to be here and sit here and say always and only, right? That's pretty stupid, because there's always exceptions. But the guys that are at the top of their game preach and teach their methods of grazing. I think the best I've seen is about a 2.5-to-1 carrying capacity. And they're still feeding hay in the winter, supplementary. So they're not growing enough forage on their land to carry their herd through the winter. So anyway, yeah, this is a very, very aggressive and kind of revolutionary style grazing that is blowing minds, because I don't know if that wind's messing you up, guys. Because really, if you practice it the way it's designed and you have the proper stocking rate, you graze half of your land rotationally, intensively, however you want to call it, and the other half you rest for a whole season and grow stockpile. And that is where the magic happens. I'm going to take that out of Josh Teague's mouth. He said that. I can't remember if he texted that or said it in a video. But anyway, that's where the magic happens. It happens with that season-long rest. Now, I've seen it with my own eyes. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to talk about how we are intentionally practicing the total grazing system now. I know that might sound weird. Intentionally. What do you mean intentionally? Well, the only other option is unintentionally. Well, yeah, we were unintentionally practicing a form of total grazing last year and didn't even realize it, right? So let me qualify that statement. So how that happened is I'm going to air quote it, we overgrazed some areas of our farm because we didn't have enough forage, because we were leaving forage behind and then we were returning too fast. We already talked about that. Our grazing rotation was way too fast. So see, this is my ADD kicking in. Gosh dang it. So we grazed it too bad. We grazed it really low, right? We overgrazed in the terms of overgrazing. And in doing so, we took, and then I said, gosh dang it, this isn't recovered at all. Shit. Just skip it, Trinity. We're not going to even graze that. Let's just let it rest. And we did that to a handful of areas because we overgrazed. Guess what happened? Those are our most improved pastures now. It's unbelievable, guys. It's unbelievable. Like, this stuff it sucked. You could see it was rocks and dirt, some weeds, so compacted. It was so compacted. Jeez. And don't get me wrong, it's still compacted. It's bad. Our ground is terrible. This stuff is terrible. I'm going to show you. This is native soil. Okay, this has not been imported. This has not been hauled from. That's crushed. But there you go. Look at that. Now, a little bit of topsoil that was here has eroded because this is a road. So that's what we're growing on, guys. It's doo-doo. I'm gonna take you over here. I'm gonna walk and just look at some of this forage. Now I'm holding this camera dead flat at about my, shoulder. So hopefully gives you a little perspective. Some of it's tall, some of it's not. But what it is it's dense. It's really dense. We're dry right now too. So this is looking a little parched, a little burnt up. Oh yeah, we got some cockleburs. We got some weeds. We got a little ragweed. We got a little Johnson grass. Oh, and we're not scared of Johnson grass. A lot of people are scared to death of it because of the possibility of prussic acid poisoning. You just got to make sure you manage it right. You got to graze it during the right time of the year. Here we go. Look. This is fescue still active. We're what is this? August 11th? What is today, guys? 12th? I don't even know. Can I even check while I'm streaming? I'm not smart enough. It's August 13th. Wow, time slips away. August 13th. Look at that. That's some beautiful fescue right there. Why is it still active? Well, it's still active and it's vegetative because it's happy. It's not stressed out. You see a seed head on that? Middle of summer, fescue should be completely seeded right now, right? It's actually in its second vegetative cycle, and it's just happy. So this is some of the stuff that I'm referring to that has happened. This is the transformation. This is the magic, because we have rested these areas a really long time. This hillside, right there. Oh man, it was bad. Bad. I honestly, when we bought this place, I looked at that and thought to myself, because you hear these guys, say, well, yeah, it takes 10 or 20 years to build your land. It takes a really, really long time, right? I don't know what God's got in plan for me in store. I might be dead in that amount of time. I might not ever have good soil, right? If it takes that long to build. Well, total grazing, 1 year, lots of rest. And this is one of the weedier, nastier, drier. This is really rocky ridge right here. I'll walk up just a little further. Let's see what we got. Man, I'm getting my exercise in this morning for you guys. I really just kind of plan on going down, flapping my neck for like 7 minutes, which anybody who knows me knows that that's not possible. I start talking about dirt, poop, grass, microbiology. It's never ending. It's like a tidal wave. So I'm climbing a hill right now, so I sound like an old winded bag. Well, maybe I am actually an old winded bag. So, that's some pretty darn good grass for not having much rain lately. And there's a nice clump of fescue all laying down. Your fescues, your cool season grasses, they lodge more easily because they have less fiber. Oh, listen to me. Fat and old. So here, I'll let you look down at it. That's the true tell, right? You go ahead and look down. That's how you know if you've got density, if your inner plant spacing is closing. You look out across the paddock like so many content creators, YouTubers, whatever you want to call them. Come. And they're always like, look at my field. It's so beautiful. Like, dude, you're not fooling me. That's just a bunch of damn seed heads. Let's look down on it. Let's see your inner plant spacing. That's where it's all at, right? So our first year, I got a great example. Our first year being here, I was like, we're doing so good. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Until we weren't because of the drought. I got my drone and put it up. Flew it over the ranch. And boy, was I disheartened. Looking down from straight overhead, there was no green. There wasn't anything green. It was just dirt. I was like, wait a minute, where'd it go? What magic trick is that? Literally, it was just, you could see our farm and it was very, very brown. So were the rest, but down at ground level, looking across, boy, it looked pretty green. Uh-oh, someone's blowing me up in the comments. Here we go. King. Let's see here. Let me get close. My big ugly face skin. Sorry, guys. You joined late. Yes. Oh, yeah, okay. What I want you to do, because I'm no expert in this and I'm not qualified to teach it. What do I mean by that? I can only relate this to my specific application, my land, my ranch, my climate, my genetics. So I can give you generalized statements about how this works. Now, the man that teaches this is Jim Elizondo, the Total Grazing Program. So Total Grazing Program. If you go into the description of this video, you're going to see a link. Click that, that'll take you to him. Yes, it is an affiliate link. I'm gonna be very, very transparent about that. Regardless, I am trying to help him spread the word. I approached him and said, hey man, this stuff works and I believe in it so much, I wanna help you spread the word. So, any type of hand holding help accelerate me to get me further along so I actually can kind of talk about it semi-intelligently, not sound like a total dumbass out here. And I want to help you spread the word because I see my neighbors struggling. I see that they all have town jobs, every single one of them. Now, would I have to have a town job right now if it wasn't for social media? Yes, because we're building a herd. We're building a herd and we have a small ranch. We only have 130 grazable acres. So, but regardless of that, I believe that this is profitable enough for people to actually make a real living off the land. Why wouldn't you be interested? This is what I tell people. Why would you not be interested in increasing your land's productivity 3 to 4 times? That is like somebody giving you 3 to 4 free farms. Just there you go. So, the common knowledge or the common practice when you want to run more cattle for most cattlemen is what? What do? They go buy more land. Oh, I want to run 300 more head. Well, okay, let's go calculate that. I'm gonna need 1,200 more acres. That's what they do. Man, this is cheap. This is the cheapest. This is the cheapest, almost free land you can get anywhere through productivity alone. So, Jim Elizondo. Jim, his real name is Jaime. Spanish, right? He's a crazy ass Mexican rancher. My story with this guy is he kept showing up. How I discovered him, I have heard of like this high utilization, ultra high density grazing, and all they've ever been talked about by most of the guys that I used to follow is how they're just, these crazy outliers doing this crazy ultra high density stuff, and they're wild. And they didn't used to badmouth them. They just were like, yeah, they're just kind of very extreme. Now they're starting to badmouth them because I think it's somehow threatening. Anyway, so Jim Elizondo kept showing up on my Facebook feed. I do a lot of social media, right? We're constantly on there. I'm replying to people and stuff. And as soon as I see like a For You page or a homepage, I kept getting this, because Facebook's always spying on you, right? And there was this crazy Mexican dude that kept showing up talking about all this wild stuff. And I was like, get off my screen. Gosh dang, get out of here. I swiped him away so many times. Jim, I hope you watch this. Actually, I don't know if I even told him this. I was like, get out of here. So he finally, something got through to me, finally. And I was like, okay, dude, I'm gonna listen to this. And then I started putting 2 and 2 together. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. This guy, he's talking about what I've experienced and and lights kind of started turning on. And so then I went, because I'm super ADD and my tisms kicked in big time. And so I just like all in, I just started devouring everything I could find out about Jim Elizondo and Johann Zeitzman. And I knew of Johann before, but I just like, just another African rancher. There's a lot of them. I don't know. It just, for some reason, it was bouncing off my fake head. So I dove into it and I gleaned as much as I could from the internet. I watched everything I could find, listened to everything I could, and then ultimately ended up taking the Total Grazing Program course online. Went to one of his grazing schools in Tallahassee, Florida, back here in June. You got to read Johann's book. You've got to. It's Man, Cattle, Veld. Man, Cattle, and Veld by Johann Zeitzman. You've got to read it. It's an absolute must read. If you don't read that, you're going to really be in over your head when you get Jaime talking to you, and the stuff won't make probably as much sense, and you'll want to call BS. Oh no, come on. Oh. So Johann, his book, again, actually, I'm not sure what I just did, guys. There we go. This. And I'm stealing it. I'm stealing it, Joe. It's like drinking from a fire hose. Now, that's an old saying. It's been around, but I think that's very applicable to this situation. So it is a lot to digest. Oh, man. it's so different too. So it's going to be hard. It was hard for my little brain to, you know, get it in there and like, no, that's not what they've told me before. You know, I was doing that stuff. So I was having some inner conflict. Once I broke through that and just went, okay, I'm in learning mode, just learning mode. It was easy. But yeah, there is a ton to learn. So read Man, Cattle, and Bell by Johann Zeitzman. And then I highly recommend, yes, it's a little bit of investment. You're going to spend a few $100s on this course and you're going to spend a few $100s on that course. And I don't even know what the full total grazing program, I think it's like maybe like $600 or something, but it's a ton of information. It's all these different modules and classes, and Jaime goes through it really slow from start to finish and makes sure that you understand it before you go to the next module. So there's like these little Q&As at the end, and you can retake it. It's not like one and done. Oh, you're not smart, you didn't get that, tough, move on. No, you can keep taking it, and you might have to go through it a few times. And but he breaks it up in these palatable little chunks and segments. You know, it's like eating an elephant, right? How you do that one bite at a time. And I think that's really the strength of what Jim's here. So, at any rate, if anything else, I mean, geez, if for most people out there that run cattle, think if you could just save, let's just say 25%, just 25% of your annual input costs by learning this method. If it was only 25%, how much money would you be ahead over the initial, $600 or whatever it is for this course? I think a lot of people would be like, oh, that's a no-brainer. Yep. So it's not uncommon for a lot of people to, small producers have a $5,000 to $20,000 feed bill in the winter. Medium-sized producers, they'll be up to that neck of the woods of, $100,000 feed bill. And, big ranchers, man, they'll spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on haying equipment. It's a lot. It's a lot, guys. And this system can virtually eliminate, if practiced properly, you can actually really eliminate basically all your hay inputs. Now, if you're in a really northern climate, there's all sorts of different rules. I don't know them all. But yes, if you get a bunch of snow and your animals can't get to it, if they can't paw through it because you got more than a foot of snow, you're going to have problems. If you get ice, you're going to have some problems. So you got to have that emergency feed. But you will be able to, extend your grazing season much longer than traditionally running out of grass quicker, and or possibly even start it much sooner in the spring. So again, just making you more productive. So, yeah, it was a no-brainer to me. Just, it's such a minor cost to gain that kind of knowledge where it can fundamentally change your whole operation, So, and we're proving it right here. We've done it in a season. So anyway, I don't know if anybody's got any more, if I even answered that. Russia. Das Nastrovia, comrade. That's about all I know, sorry. I used to work with a Russian dude. Back when I was a crazy drinker, we'd go to the bar and we'd always toast that up. Let's see. Yeah, no, we'll definitely continue posting, King. Again, anybody, if you've got 2 cows, it might not be worth the investment. I totally understand that. But if you've got a herd of any size of numbers, it's some really valuable information. So check them out. Hit up his link. What else? Anybody got anything else? I mean, I've kind of just ran around really fast and kind of touched on this subject and this subject and this subject. And I know it seems like probably disjointed and discombobulated. Jim will make it make sense. I'm not making it make sense, likely. But adapted genetics. Oh, boy. So the 4 pillars of his program is kind of what he really hammers on. So optimal calving season, animal nutrition, the grazing method and style, adapted genetics. Did I already say that? I'm stupid. Anyway, my brain is in a million different places right now. So if you follow his guidelines, he breaks it up simply for you. What you getting, girl? She's over attacking mice, field rats. But yes, so you have to understand that this system is highly adaptable to everybody's situations. And what I mean by that is if you have commercial cattle, i.e., let's just say Angus, Angus Cross, most of your British breeds, and you put them into this system intensively, like boom, you just go after it, they are going to fall apart on you or die. Okay? No, 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 no. You have to understand that the foundation of this style of grazing is working toward adapted genetics. If you have unadapted cattle, you have to graze them easier. You have to let them be a little more selective. You have to provide them with more shade. You have to do things and keep in mind that you keep stress off your animals. They're not heat adapted, and you're in the South. We're in southern Missouri Ozarks. And it's the South. It's the northernmost portion of the South. People have southern hospitality here. There's southern food. It's the South. Some people like to say it's the Midwest, geographically speaking, possibly, but it is the South culturally, and the heat. Hot, humid. You better have adapted animals. High feed conversions. High feed conversion efficiency. So feed conversion efficiency, ultra important, meaning animals that get fat on the same given amount of or unit of feed. Some animals can fatten easier than others. What kind of animals are those? Well, typically those animals are smaller framed, shorter legged, finer boned, in the heat, slicker hided, so they have less stress and heat on them, so they can ruminate harder, more frequently. They can eat higher fiber without getting as hot. So that's something I didn't talk about. The higher the fiber content of your forage, the more, the harder, I'm just going to say, the more difficult it is, the more heat, the more rumination that has to happen in the animal's rumen. And that's like almost like an exothermic reaction, right? It freaking, it creates a ton of heat. And so if you have animals that aren't heat adapted in a hot environment in the sun, giving them a bunch of highly lignified, very, very fibrous material, man. And let's throw toxic endophyte in there while we're at it. That's how you get the summer slump, folks. That's how your animals fall apart on you. That's how you end up with really poor animal performance. That's how you end up with animals that don't breed back. That's how you end up with having to breed in winter because your unadapted bull can't deliver a live load of semen to the girls when they are cycling, even if they do have good condition, because his testicles are too hot. He can't regulate enough. He can't cool enough, and he's going to be shooting blanks. You're not going to get him pregnant. So what ends up happening? You're going to breed them more likely in winter when everybody's happy again and they're less stressed and they're nice and cool like the British breeds like. And then you're going to be calving in the fall. Why would we calve in the fall? Well, because we can't get bred in other times of the year. Well, maybe fundamentally that's a problem because if you're calving and not optimal season or optimal timing, that means you're going to be calving and you're going to have an animal that's going into the time of the year where there's less nutrition, there's less available forage, and she's going to be in the time of her life when she needs the highest amount of nutrition and intake because she's lactating. It's totally underestimated by a lot of folks, especially if you're new to cattle, like never been around cattle, or anything, any mammal that is lactating. Doesn't matter. It can be a cat, a dog, a cow, a horse. Lactation requires a ton of nutrition, right? Ton of nutrition. And if you're not giving it to them, they're going to fall apart. They're going to get skinny. They're going to lose body condition. So if they lose body condition during that time, so what it is just this snowball effect. You calve out of season with unadapted animals. You calved out of season because you have unadapted cattle. Then your animal requires more nutrition, but it's not getting it because you're in winter. So they lose body condition, and they have such poor body condition that they don't recover enough in time to cycle back because they don't have enough body fat. Body fat is required for estrogen. If they don't have adequate body condition, i.e. fat, they're not going to produce enough estrogen to create an estrous cycle. They're not going to get bred. So now you got a bull with his nuts cooking. You got a cow without an estrus cycle, and you've got them during the wrong time of the year, eating the wrong kind of forage in the wrong temperatures. I mean, it's a big snowball mess. And that's what causes people to end up with like 50, 60% calving rates. Who can afford that? You can't afford to do that. You can't afford to stay on the land. You can't afford to have a 50% calving rate. Shit, you can't afford to have an 80% calving rate at a 3-to-1 carrying capacity. It ain't gonna work, folks. You're gonna go broke. I don't care if you give the land to you for free. Just your inputs alone are gonna kill you. So you've got to limit your inputs and you've got to maximize your production. And you can't have a bunch of freeloading cattle on your land, i.e. open cows or bulls that don't have viable semen. Ding, ding, ding. It's that easy. That is irrefutable. I know that to be fact. That is irrefutable. There's no amount of study or what anybody else can say. If somebody contradicts that, fundamentally speaking, says that's not true, you can do that. Dude, they got nothing to offer me, because those are truths about productivity and the reproduction cycle of cattle and how you need to be calving in the green season when your grass is highly palatable, high nutrition, and they can produce a lot of milk without falling apart. So if you can practice some of that stuff, that's all the stuff that you'll learn in the Total Grazing Program, and probably learn it better than me teaching it, or me trying to talk about it. I'm not a teacher. I'm just a neck flapper. So, well, here we are. We're back. I've been running my neck for almost 100 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Here we go. So that forage was like that forage, right? Let's get down. I'm gonna show you. It's thick, it's lush, it's beautiful. And now this is what they're doing to it. You can see quite a bit's trampled, but they're still working on it because they haven't fouled it yet, right? It's not totally destroyed because it's not such a large area that they're just walking around through it nonstop, spreading crap and piss on it. So when they get tired, right, they're like, I'm full, I'm gonna take a break. They walk out of the active grazing area. That's right here because it's very small and there's a lot of animals in it. And what do? They move back out here and they relax there. They take a nap, they lay down, they ruminate. They just walk out, cruise around, sniff for maybe little morsels like her. I don't know if you, that, somebody else missed, but they don't foul that bad. Now they're gonna foul the heck out of it the next time I move the fence forward. So that's another thing about how this works. It works really well. It helps spread your manure in a very controlled manner, right? So, okay, so here you go. Let's see. We're not running them at very high stock densities right now. I said that earlier in the video. Man, we went on walkabout. This is just a super long run on live rant. This is just me getting it out there for now. I'll probably be coming back and try and keep my lives to like 10, 20 minutes, okay? This is me breaking the champagne bottle on the bow of the ship, okay? So you can see that's buckbrush, also known as coralberry. They just really don't touch that stuff. I've had them take the tips. If I put them in at 800,000 pound stock density, they will. But you can see all this is not giant ragweed. This is common ragweed, but it's pretty giant right now. It's huge and stemmy. You can see they stripped it. They put a hurting on it. Here's more. And let's see, saplings they ate. Yeah, they chewed up the saplings. They chewed up this flower right there. I forget what that's called, but we got quite a few of them. Most fields have them everywhere around here, and the cattle don't touch them, and so they're allowed to take over, Oh, Bruno. I think he's coming over. He's wanting a scratch. Hey, big boy. You gonna bow? You gonna bow for everybody? No? Oh, it's the selfie stick. It's scary. See, he's really curious about the selfie stick. Okay, there you go. Now he's bowing. Yeah, so, but they're hammering it, This is non-selective grazing. This is non-selective grazing, even though we're letting them be a little selective. So they're hitting everything, right? Every plant's been hurt. Now, but they're leaving enough forage behind, unpalatable grasses. Okay. Thank you. Are you done now? Jeez. So I'm actually going to come in and mow this when we're done. I'm mowing behind the herd to get some of this older rank forage off. So what ends up happening when you do that, if you mow, so that's part of the total grazing. I'm totally grazing it mechanically after they're done to make sure everything's an even clean slate. And we're cutting off as much of that old junk as possible. So we end up with a higher leaf to stem ratio. Super important. High leaf to stem ratio. The next time we come through here, it'll be even more palatable. Well, we're also fighting some stuff. This is called nimblewill. It's a pretty nasty grass. It's not very palatable. It's very, very stemmy. The cattle, oh, there we go. The cattle don't like it, but they still eat it. You can see that's all that's left is pretty much the stem. They still top it. But that stuff, you know, I've heard guys stress out about like, oh man, my farm's being taken over by nimblewill. That's okay. That's okay. Because the only places I'm finding this is it's coming in the available spaces. It's coming in those inner plant spacings we talked about. So available space, it's starting to fill up. Now, without proper management, it might completely take over. It's growing under our trees where there was nothing before. So I would rather have an undesirable growing than nothing at all, because it's at least fixing your soil. What do I mean by that? Well, it's got roots in the soil. Anything that's got roots in the soil is doing something beneficial for it. How do I know that? Hey, there's a big old fly gonna crawl around my camera. How do I know that? Well, I know that because that's how nature works. That's how God works. Successional plants. That you might not like that plant there, but guess what? That's the one that needs to grow there. Why? How do I know that's the right one that grows there? Because it's growing there. So successional plants, when the soil conditions are proper or right or correct, time of year, precipitation, blah, 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 that's what you'll end up with. You know, that saying, there's no wisdom like that of a seed. It will sit dormant for decades, hundreds of years, sometimes in extreme cases, possibly even thousands of years. And then given the proper environment, just like that, boom, germinates. That's why you start seeing stuff show up. If you have a lot of weeds on your land, well, why do you have those weeds there? So weeds, herbaceous plants, not grasses, typically show up on land that is depleted in nutrition, low in calcium, that's a big one, and or compacted, typically all of those. So why do you get these plants with big old giant taproots? Well, those things that can push down through hardpan and at least down to the layer that becomes anaerobic. Anaerobic levels in your soil, roots do not grow into it or past it. Why? Because there's no oxygen. They have to be able to have oxygen in the soil. So that's why compacted soil is so detrimental. It has nothing to do with oh, the root can't actually grow through it. Nay, roots can grow through concrete and asphalt, remember? So there's no oxygen. So that's why they stop going. Anyway, a taproot will go down as far as it can, but it will go much deeper than fibrous roots, and it will be pulling things back to the surface, like calcium, that is that translocates easily. You know, it's heavy molecularly, and it goes down deep in your soil, and you'll lose it fast if you don't manage properly. So just change your management, and you will change the species of plants that you grow. You know, through rest, you can definitely supplement your soils with things. If you add calcium, we did that, major improvement. So anyway, check out Jim's stuff. I'm done. I'm gonna get out of here. Really appreciate all you guys. Anybody else? Oh, have very beautiful fields. Thank you. Sure miss it. You miss it, huh? Jazz music. What do you miss? You used to ranch, farm? What's going on? Let me see if we got anything else here. I'm 25 and got 50 acres of land, living in an RV lot, but always believed total grazing could be possible. I'm very interested in what. Oh yeah. Oh, it's good. Oh, it's good. You got to do it. Get on the land. Get on the land And like Jim says, I completely agree with his statement. The cattle need the grass just like the grass need the cattle. They work symbiotically, folks. You can't have one without the other, not productively anyway. It'll go back to woody encroachment, brush, weeds. It'll be, it'll turn into some prairie-ish stuff, but typically your woody encroachment comes in and that's it. It'll just reforest and junk. So get some animals, get some land, get to it. See you guys on the next one.